Hey people, I was watching a bit of the Conservative Party conference on BBC Parliament recently, which for those who don't know is a special channel dedicated just to British politics, shows segments from Parliament, and every year we have something called party conferences, which is somewhat similar to American party conventions except they happen every year and they're smaller in scale. But they're similar whereby manifestos are laid out and so on. Anyway, this year, when speaking to the Tory party conference, David Cameron, the Prime Minister, was talking about the whole subject of work and employment and so on, which of course the Tories have pretty obvious views on. Their views on unemployed amount to utter contempt, and that's always been the case with the Tories. But there was one point David Cameron said that it's poverty that leads to slavery, not work. And I'd like to just weigh in a bit on what I think of this. Well, that's true. Poverty is a form of slavery in the sense that it restricts life's, it restricts what you can do in life. So I don't dispute that. But what I would strongly contend is his notion is what his government is offering is work. Firstly, there are many people in this country right now who are either in low-paid jobs doing part-time work or fully unemployed. At the moment, I'm effectively fully unemployed. I may, if I'm lucky, get 1 or 2 hours a week teaching international students, but it's so little that I'm effectively unemployed, so I come under that category. Now, a lot of people outside the UK, and I'd like to address those people as well, especially from perhaps less developed countries, tend to have this notion that being unemployed in the UK is really easy. They tend to think the government will give you everything and life is a picnic. And this isn't helped by the fact that there's a lot of people in Britain also believe that, stirred up by tabloid distortion. The truth could not be further from reality. I mean, the truth is just absolutely different from how it's been portrayed here. If you think unemployment in the UK is easy, or anywhere for that matter, you really need to experience it. You really do. It may be, some of the circumstances may be somewhat easier than it would be in other countries, but unemployment's never easy, ever. Now, if you believe everything the tabloid press says, then you will believe that welfare claimants receive vast amounts of money every week. They have no obligation to just do what they want. That's simply not reality. I fully concede there are people who abuse the system, who have no objectives for themselves, and who use taxpayers' money, just they live off it basically. But for many other people, they're using job seekers allowance and other forms of welfare as a necessary means for living until they get a paid job. And in my opinion, in a civilized society, that's absolutely central. It would be a very cold society that says, you've fallen on hard times, fuck you, we're not going to help you in any way. Now, the Tories, if they had their way, there would be no welfare at all. They would take the view, and they have been pumping out this propaganda, sort of can work, should work. Now, that's all very well, but they constantly ignore the fact that many unemployed people are trying their level best to find work, and this makes my blood boil, how they distort this. I really find it very, very hard to deal with sometimes, because the Conservative Party, which is the ruling party, constantly distorts the situation for populist reasons. They know that a very large proportion of the British public is influenced by A, the tabloid press, or B, the Tory press, such as the Daily Telegraph and Daily Mail. About 70% of the British press is right-wing, which tends to mean tough on unemployed people, tough rhetoric on unemployed people. That means they have a choice about what they read, but people are almost certainly influenced by the British tabloid press. And the tabloid press never ever shows the full picture, neither do the Conservative Party. And to be fair, they're not the only party that's done it. Labour, a lot of Tories seem to think Labour is soft on unemployment. Actually, no, they aren't. And neither are the Lib Dems. All three establishment parties have used populist language on this. When they were out of government, the Lib Dems were the only party that showed any sort of compassion and decency. But now they're in government under Nick Clegg. They're using the very same sort of language as the Tories. I mean, Clegg has come out with "I believe in work." When asked a question about forced labour, his response was "I believe in work." The insinuation being that unemployed people don't. The insinuation being that unemployed people are lazy. And this is something you see all the time. You will always hear mainstream politicians talking about the unemployed but never actually asking unemployed people their opinion. And you'll hear members of the public saying, what are we going to do about these people? But again, unemployed people are never ever asked. Claimants especially are never asked. This makes my blood boil. Because in my opinion, the unemployed are the most vilified group in Britain today. The bankers get quite a rough press, but they are not scapegoated as in the way that all unemployed are. Because the Tories support the bankers. Okay? I'd like to speak a bit about the issue of forced labour in Britain. I don't know exactly when this was introduced, but I know it certainly took place in the Gordon Brown years. Gordon Brown was a Labour Prime Minister. I think Blair may have introduced it. So for those who think Labour was soft on the issue, think again. I was unemployed at that time as well, and because I've been up and down, I've had jobs before and since. But anyway, I was unemployed at that time, and I was claiming job seekers allowance. And after a few months, they put you into a program whereby you're basically assigned to a company. In my case, it was a furniture producer. And basically you have to go to that company from 9 to 5, and there's very mixed messages. On one hand, the work providers, the way it works is you go to the job centre and sign on every week. That means you have to be there at an exact time and fill in a form and tell them what you're doing to try and find work. And then after that they put you onto a so-called work provider. In my case it was a company called Sensia, a despicable company in my opinion, who then will put you forward to a company whereby you basically have to work there, and you're expected to work in the same way as other people. There's a catch: you're not paid for it. This is forced unpaid labour, okay, which in my opinion is exploitation, and there's no guarantee of a job at the end of it anyway. So basically you're being exploited in this place for, I think it's a 1 month period. No, in fact I think it's 2 months actually, because I left early. I voluntarily relinquished the job seekers allowance I was receiving because I could no longer tolerate being treated in this way. If you go through one of those programs, A4E is another notorious work provider that's guilty of this. A lot of the staff, I'm not talking about job centre staff, I'm talking about staff in A4E and Sensia, are smug, arrogant, control freak bullies who love it. They love having this sort of control over other people. I remember there was one woman who used to come in and actually gloat about how good she was at her work. And I remember, they had a complaint system in place, but the system was utterly rigged against the claimants, because all the staff would back each other, or at least, even if you did raise issues, they would just deny it. And in the end, I ended up writing to a regional manager or something. He said they do not tolerate bullying, etc, etc, etc. But he also used a lot of patronising language about we're just trying to help. Going through that experience is not designed to help. And when the Tories say it is, they're just lying through their teeth. The programme is designed as punishment and humiliation. Punishment because they want to feed into this populist view that unemployed people have it too easy, and therefore they should get it a bit harder for the so-called free money. Let me make something clear: there's no such thing as free money. Not many people realise this, but job seekers allowance can actually be subject to tax. So the money you receive in job seekers allowance, a proportion of that will go to tax, so it is tax deductible anyway. And there's other factors. It's not free money. You have to physically prove that you are actively trying to find work. It's not just like they give you money, have a nice week, goodbye. Anyone who's been through this will understand what it's like. And it makes my blood boil when people say it's easy. You know, my own view is a lot of people are in jobs they can't stand, and they're frustrated to work long hours, to work hard, and they want to take that out on someone. They see unemployed people, they associate unemployment with laziness, so they want to take it out on us. And whilst it may be true that some unemployed people abuse the system, it's simply not a case that everyone does. Now, when I was claiming job seekers allowance, I'm not now. When I was actively trying to find work. I was trying very hard to do that. And in economic circumstances, that was very, very difficult. And, you know, I would say something else. In areas where there's far more applicants than there are vacancies, frankly, I don't blame people for giving up. That's not the same as laziness. That's a human reaction to... I'm not saying they should do that, but it's a human reaction to the circumstances. You do wonder at one point, if you've experienced unemployment, you do wonder, I'm spending time filling in these applications, I'm trying my level best, I'm trying to sell myself, no one's responding, and those who do say, sorry, we can't accept you. So you do get to a point where it's very disheartening. And I really despise people like Jeremy Kyle, who make the issue simplistic. His view is, you'll go down, speak to a shop, and apply for a job. No, Jezza, it doesn't work like that. I mean, I think Jeremy Kyle's a piece of shit, but that's besides the point. I've made another video about him, and I think he's a despicable man. And the same applies to Gordon Ramsay, another populist cards. Weak little men who make a living. Oh, anyway, I'm going off on a rant. I really despise those guys. I hate them with every fibre of my being, actually. And I make no secret about that. I absolutely despise them. But I'm talking about the general issues here, and I think it's despicable how the Tories have used this sort of populist programme in the most cowardly way. What they're doing is they're turning the majority of the public against the minority. Now, you might argue the majority are not influenced by the Tories, they feel those views anyway, but the Tories are definitely stirring it up, and they're definitely provoking it, and so are the tabloids. And the public are very badly informed. They don't see what goes on behind closed doors. They don't see this forced labour programme, which I believe is reprehensible in a democratic country. I don't go as far as some people and say it's slavery. I don't think it's slavery, but I think it is definitely exploitation. And it's definitely utterly immoral to treat law-abiding people as criminals. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I've worked with the police. I'm on the right side of the law. I've played by the rules. Yet I felt from day one there, people were talking down to me, treating me like a criminal. It utterly disgusts me, and it unsettles me that so many people think it's okay. And I believe the reason for that is because they're badly informed. They haven't experienced it themselves. They believe what they read in the gutter press. Vicious lying rags like The Sun, The Express, The Mail, and a few others, which simply lie about the situation. You know, The Sun, what they will do, they will take a case of someone who has badly abused the system and deserves full criticism, but then they will say this is the status quo, every unemployed person is like that. Now, poisonous, lying, cowardly rags like The Sun never show the whole picture, because they're too cowardly to do that. And the Tories, likewise, they will never ever acknowledge that most unemployed people are decent, normal people who are trying to get on. Yes, there are people who abuse the system, and that's wrong. I thoroughly condemn that. It's unfair on the taxpayer, it's unfair on other claimants. But it makes me sick to the core when people make these lazy, generalising slurs about the unemployed. And if you think unemployment's easy, then I really think you should be forced into a job centre. You deserve to lose your job. I honestly believe anyone that says it's easy deserves to lose their job, so that they know firsthand what it's like. If it's easy, then why is the suicide rate much higher among unemployed people? Answer that. If it's easy, then why do you have... So why is it not working? You know, if this forced labour programme, as the Tories claim, is working, then why is the success rate of people getting jobs at the end of it so low? The dropout rate is very high. And there's good reason for that, because people are sick of being treated like criminals. You know, attacking a group that can't defend itself, the only way we can defend ourselves is through the cyber forum, like me making a video like this. I can write to MPs, but most of them will ignore it or come out with excuses. I've written to ministers, and they just use patronising languages about wanting to help, and they didn't take my issues on board. And I'm sick of it. This is morally wrong, there's no justification, it's counterproductive. And my time's up now, so I need to go. But that's just a rant about what I think of Britain's despicable forced labour.